The Honourable Trevor Mallett.
Mr Chairman, because this bill was spent very little time being considered at the committee, the Labour opposition want to look at it carefully and to ask a series of questions. And the first question I'd like to ask is whether the Minister who is currently in the chair is briefed on the legislation to the point where he understands it and can answer questions. And if the Minister could shake his head or nod his head to indicate whether he's been briefed and can answer questions. No, he hasn't. Well, sir, I just want to make it clear to the House that the Labour Party was prepared to flick this bill through with no consideration at the committee stage if in fact there had been a proper process of a couple of hours at a select committee where the questions from the Labour Party could have been answered. But notwithstanding an undertaking that would take place from Mike Sabin, the committee chair, that did not occur, and therefore what the Labour Party will do today and if necessary tomorrow as part of the committee process, which is 4 debates on this bill, we will ask the questions until we get satisfactory answers. Sir, I regret that that has to be the case, but sir, especially with legislation that we are generally supporting. Sir, what I'd like to start off with is whether the title is in fact the appropriate title, and in particular the 2014 date that is involved with it. Sir, and as to that, the first question I'd like to ask is, when did the Cricket World Cup New Zealand's share of the arrangements for next year, when was it made clear that New Zealand would be involved in that? Now, I've got a vague memory that it might have been 2006, and I'd like the Minister to confirm that it was 2006 that we got to the point of knowing that this would be happening in February of 2015. Now, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty certain it was somewhere around that time. And so the question which flows from that, Mr Chairman, is why have we taken so long to get legislation to come in? I think it was clear, if not back in the day I was Minister of Sport, and that happened until a date in 2007 when I was involved in a sporting activity, boxing, with one of my colleagues who I understand is currently before the courts. I'm not sure if we're allowed to refer to his case. I know we're not allowed to refer to the details of it. But sir, I'm pretty sure it happened before that time, and we knew then that we would need legislation on match fixing. I had discussions, Mr Speaker, I think in 2012, maybe 2011, 2012 certainly, 2013, and 4 or 5 times earlier this year with ministers opposite indicating that the Labour Party was supportive of whatever reasonable legislative change was necessary in order to get this legislation through in a way which helped our international reputation and was fair to the players involved. A lot of discussions, and even at the point the legislation was sitting on the table, and it sat on the table for a reasonable period of time before it was sent off to the committee, I indicated to ministers opposite, because we didn't want to be caught in exactly this situation in the period heading up to Christmas after the election, taking up valuable parliamentary time. Mr Chairman, on legislation that was around which there was a degree of unanimity within the Parliament. So I indicated to ministers opposite that if they wanted to send the committee off with a truncated first reading, as long as we could have a day questioning the officials from the sporting organisations, Sport New Zealand, Justice, and the various sporting organisations at the committee, probably take a couple of hours to work through the questions with the people who had the answers to those questions. I don't know what happened to the organisation of the House, but that did not occur. We did have the first reading, it was sent off, and as I've indicated to the House previously, not worth going over it too much more, I indicated to the chair of the Select Committee, if we could work through with Sport New Zealand, with the Rugby Union, with the Rugby League, and with New Zealand Cricket, as a minimum group, if we could work through the issues with them and with the TAB, who of course have quite a lot of expertise in that area, as part of a group, then the Labour Party would facilitate the further passage of the bill. And I again indicated to ministers opposite that this stage of the bill would probably not be necessary if we could get unanimity. But as has been indicated, the undertaking to get the sporting organisations in was not met, apparently because officials told the minister that it wasn't necessary. Officials told the minister it wasn't necessary, or the chair of the Select Committee, and it's it is an unusual approach for members of the Select Committee who are looking to foreshorten parliamentary time and debate, to get things through, not to work in a cooperative way. And Mr. Speaker, I do want to say that it's not my intention that the Crimes Max Fixing Amendment Bill be the Act of 2015. It is our intention just to stay strictly on the letter of it, to get it through in 2014 rather than leave it to the couple of days which would be available. It would be available when Parliament gets back in the new year, but it might interrupt the Prime Minister's statement if in fact we had to pressure it in that way to get it through before the Cricket World Cup. Mr. Speaker, some of the detailed questions, I think it's probably worth giving a bit of a signal as to the areas that we do want to ask questions about. I want to ask questions when we get on to later parts or later clauses of the bill around the IRB rules and how they relate, whether they are consistent with this area or not. I want to ask about the FIFA rules and whether the decisions as to where matches are held, which are currently the subject of corruption allegations as far as the FIFA executive or the FIFA organisation is concerned, whether the location of matches and the betting on where matches are located, whether that is caught by this bill, or is it only match fixing within a particular match or not. So what I'm trying to find out here is the scope of the legislation. I want to ask the Minister, and I don't mind if he replies later when he's properly briefed, which countries are covered. Is it a betting outcome in New Zealand, and therefore a bet within New Zealand? Is a bet with centre bet covered? And if it's a New Zealander who makes a bet, and is the bet with centre bet covered if the activity is offshore? Are offshore activities covered, or are they only covered in New Zealand? So is a New Zealander betting with centre bet on something in New Zealand covered or not? Is someone betting with the local bookie covered? Are we only covering legal bets, or are we covering illegal bets? And Mr. Chairman, there are a lot of questions in that areas. Can you bet?
Clayton Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time.